Evening, everyone. My name is Caitlin, and I'm pleased to welcome you all on behalf of Voiceroom. First and foremost, before we begin, we would like to thank the Royal Automobile Club for supporting this event and for allowing us to celebrate automotive excellence in such a fitting venue. Now, tonight, we're deeply honored to have with us Frank-Steffen Walliser, the Chairman and CEO of Bentley Motors. Bentley occupies a unique space in the automotive industry, a mark defined not only by its unmistakable British heritage, but by its commitment to purposeful innovation, blending power with poise and luxury with intention. Today, the brand stands at a pivotal moment, shaping the future of high-end mobility whilst preserving the quiet confidence and handcrafted excellence that has always set it apart. Leading this transformation is Frank. With a distinguished background in mechanical engineering and decades of experience in innovation and performance leadership roles, Frank brings both strategic clarity and technical depth to Bentley's next chapter. His perspective bridges engineering and enterprise, tradition and technology, the responsibilities of the present, and the imperatives of the future. As you may have noticed, wings are a defining feature on Bentley's logo, and under his steadfast leadership, the sky is truly the limit. This said, please join me in giving us a warm welcome to Frank.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Yes, I'm very honored to be here in this, I would say, famous room and famous address for the automobile industry. Please allow me to give you a short introduction into Bentley, that we have a common starting point, and no presentation without a proper video. Yes, this is a short impression of things we have done over the last year. So it's not a decade, it's just a year. And maybe you see things are changing within Bentley. We continue to be relentlessly extraordinary. And this is a big part of our history. But where did everything start? It started as a startup, we would say today. The latest tech developed here in north of London by W.O. Bentley. And the latest tech back in the days 107 years ago was cars. And he was a really talented engineer. And then the story started. And interestingly, it was not W.O. who put the cars to Le Mans. It was the customers. So the customers from the beginning on loved really their brand, their cars. The guys living not far away from here in Mayfair, they had crazy ideas what you could do with these cars. And so the story started. And interestingly, in reflecting in what I would call the three main periods in Bentley, between 1919 and 1931, in only 12 years, really the foundation of the brand has been built. Only 12 years. Think on how long it will take to build NHS2. 12 years where the foundation was built that would last for, we can predict already, more than 100 years. But there was economic pressure, 1929, the crisis on the financial market. Also Bentley was impacted by that. But good news, the neighbors bought it, Rolls-Royce in Manchester and in Derby, so the brand was somehow protected and it kept living. And honestly, looking from today's perspective with the strategy department, being in the same situation, you would have asked yourself, why do we have the Bentley brand? What are we doing with that? Where's the difference? Why are we building Rolls-Royces and Bentleys? But somehow it did not stop. And for 50, if you ask me from today's perspective, for 50 years, no one had an idea what to do with this brand. They just continue building cars. But not really big difference, but there have always been lovers that preferred the Bentley over the Rolls-Royce. Funny story. But then mid-80s, someone had an idea and said, now we make a sporty derivative called the Turbo R. And that changed everything forever. Then all for a sudden, the sales numbers of Bentley went up, whilst the Rolls-Royce numbers, and nothing against our colleagues, we are in good friendship, somehow stayed. And this was Bentley was reborn. But again, it was led by different companies. For a while, it was even state-owned. In 1998, there was a big showdown between two German car manufacturers. A little bit unclear who finally won. It ended, one had a brand and the other one had a factory. Bentley was then part of Volkswagen, and this is where again the story started. And Bentley was protected, huge investments, new products, new access to technology, completely different understanding of quality and everything, and this is until today. Where we are today, we are still located in Crewe for 80 years now. We have around 4,000 colleagues. We are rewarded, I think for the 15th time in a row as being a top employer in the UK. And our profit last year was 216 million euros. We report everything in euros. I'm sorry for this, but as being part of the Volkswagen Group, that comes with that. This is what we offer. This is our fleet. We have the Continental as coupe and convertible. We have super sports. Just in a couple of weeks, the first cars will be introduced or handed over to the first customers. We have Bentayga, what was a major step in the offer, because Bentley entered the high-end SUV segment. And the Flying Spur, this is maybe the car most would expect. But our majority in sales, also to be very clear and honest, is in Continentals and Bentaygas. But it also shows this is today's offer. The world will look different from tomorrow on. And if I'm saying tomorrow, it is tomorrow. Tomorrow we start with the very, very first meeting, not in the public, with journalists to show our new car. So you are at an evening where from tomorrow on, Bentley will again really change. The introduction of an electric car is, maybe some of you follow the automotive industry, is one of the biggest transformations and one of the biggest challenges this industry have seen over the last 140 years. It's not just safety standards, software, airbags, exhaust emission control, everything what have already been handled over the last 140 years, in general, over the last 170 years for Bentley. This transformation is way more, because it comes with new infrastructure, it comes with different consumer behavior, it comes with, everything is now black and white, you're either ICE or BEV, maybe you're plug-in hybrid or you're in between, but you are unclear. A really, really big challenge. We are ready to take this challenge. We are starting tomorrow. We will present the car to the public end of September here in London, and we will be on the market in approximately a year. So let's call it exciting times. What else is it with Bentley? Now we are selling new cars. To whom? Who is our customer? And our customers are very, very interestingly, and this makes maybe the difference, And I said, W.O. Bentley was only 12 years in this company, bringing the foundation. So it's not about the company that has been influenced for decades by the founders or by the family of the founders that we know from big companies like Peugeot, like Ford, like Porsche. They are the founders, had a big impact, sometimes until today. It's not the case in Bentley. But we are famous because of our customers, and that makes a big, big difference. We are not for our customers. So the Bentley story is a different one. It's one of customers. It's all about the customer. Customer centricity has in our company a completely different meaning. So talking about these customers, you find famous names, you find not so famous names, but people that really have achieved something in their life. That's normally the reason why buying a Bentley. Talking now, and I will not tell you any production numbers because this is not related to the luxury market. No one in the luxury segment is publishing numbers of produced goods. This does not fit to luxury because every customer is unique, every car is unique. So why chasing these numbers? I would say this is a little bit for automotive behavior. It's not our case. 57 million registrations last year, and we see still, even if the times are really tough, we still see growth in the automotive market. New markets coming, new competitors coming. It's as active as it has been over everything I have seen over the last 30 years. There was never such a big push of new competition, new technology, new markets like today. 57 million global registrations. Now we are talking on the luxury segment. How big is the luxury segment? On the top players that sell cars with a 250,000 pounds or euros, you can choose, as long as it's not renminbi. But in this price category, if we look at this segment, this is only 0.08% of it, roughly 44,000 cars. This is the market space where we are. And we are a good player there. Pretty happy where we are. It's a very, very, very special market. But also to be very clear, all homologation rules, all safety aspects, all reliability aspects apply to a Bentley as they do to the 57 million other cars. There's no difference. There's slight things, but the majority is fulfilled. That gives you an idea on the task we have to take also from a technical perspective. So what is this car for if I go a little bit more into detail? Bentley is the only brand that can deliver cars that are truly luxurious, if I take a flying spur, to totally sporty, if I take super sports, our latest addition to the brand. And both cars are credible. Bentley has a rich story in motorsports and sporty cars, and it has a rich history and offers in the past from having a really luxurious offer. And then for sure we spread from the core range up to the top specification of Mulliner down to one-off offers where we only build 12 cars, like in a Batur convertible or in our continuation series. So very, very widespread. And again, it's the single car brand that can offer both from a credibility point of view. Others go in multi-brand. If I look in some of the Stuttgart brands, they have 3 offers for the luxurious part down to the sporty part or their center. So that's I think a very, very big asset we have in Bentley. We don't need a second brand. We put everything, because we are talking on tomorrow, in our Beyond 100 Plus strategy. We defined the purpose. This is the boundaries, or to advance the boundaries of excellence. The vision we have, that we create the next benchmark in performance and luxury, and again, performance and luxury. And then a very simple mission, being relentlessly extraordinary for cars, for processes, inside the factory, inside our retail network, how we handle our customers, how we create this family, and how we create what I would call the Bentley feeling. So the essence is, and if you take that home after today's evening, I would be very happy if you remember Bentley is being relentlessly extraordinary. Now I think we have a lot of questions prepared for an interview that I try to manage, and then we are open in the space here. Thank you very much.
Right, well, thank you. That was a very solid foundation for the rest of our discussion today. But before we actually talk about Bentley, I'd actually like to start with you. You said before that your fascination with cars began practically from the moment you could speak. What was it about cars that captured you so completely at such a young age?
Yeah, what was it really? If I'm very honest, I don't know. But something must be fascinating about these cars. And I think I was attracted by, well, they could move. You've seen them in your daily life. The 70s have maybe also been a little bit more colorful. Maybe this attracted me also as a kid. But I was always in cars. I cannot tell you exactly. I was fascinated by it.
That's fair. Well, you eventually went on to pursue mechanical engineering and later a PhD together with Porsche, something that at the time had not been done before. You then continued to stay at the company for over 2 decades, so as you can imagine, there's a lot we can unpack from those years. One of your first major projects at Porsche involved analyzing competitor technology, and during that time, you encountered a particularly interesting engineering question, which was, why did the Mercedes convertible sound better than a Porsche? Maybe some of you will hear the answer later after the event, but for now we will keep the anticipation there for you. And when you're presenting your analysis on this question, you impressed the board members so much that you were offered a position as their executive technical assistant, TA. You've described this TA role as being one of the most formative in your career. So could you tell us more about the experience and what it taught you?
Well, maybe back to the comparison of the wind noise between a Porsche and a Mercedes. It was all about analytics. I was not an expert, but I just asked people, and I was curious on it, and I had to deliver a solution. And maybe I did something unexpected, because I went in a Mercedes retailer and said, I want to buy this roof. They said, well, this is 8,000 euros. Are you nuts? You even don't have a VIN number. I said, well, but I need it. I want to buy such a roof. And then we dismantled it, and then we found out a lot of things, but we never have looked at it. So it's being curious. And well, maybe this was what was impressive, but I'm still not sure if I impressed more the board member or the secretary. Maybe it was a combination of it. Anyway, in the TA job, you have all of a sudden you have the same access to data and information than a board member. And then you get just a bigger picture for things. You don't see that in every role, and sometimes you ask yourself, oh, why is a decision going in this direction or in that direction? But if you have all the information, if you can read all the reports and everything, you see the bigger picture. And this was for me this important part to say, okay, there's a way to get a bigger picture on the business, not only an engineering perspective, also manufacturing, financial data, everything what comes together. And as a early career, that was very, very interesting. And I was studying a lot. And I was reading all the stuff where the board member did not have any time to read. So I could read it and I could write the briefings, and that helped me a lot.
And afterwards you moved into motorsport, which you said before was an area that you initially knew very little about, actually. Now, if I recall correctly, back when you were in school, your favorite subject was physics, because it felt tangible and applied, as opposed to mathematics, which we might all agree it's a bit too theoretical. So it sounds like from very early on, you've always learned best by understanding the real-world implications of something and then putting it into practice. How did that instinct guide your approach to learning about motorsport?
It's well said, and it's right. I was always attracted by practical doing, less than in theoretical studying, because I always thought real things really count in the world. It's not just writing books and understanding something in depth. It's about application, because this will move the world. But I am also aware, as I did the PhD and everything, there's nothing more practical than good theory. If you understand the theory, you can then go in the practical things. So in motorsports, I decided I first have to learn a lot, because I didn't understand a lot about motorsports. Yes, cars are going around in circles and somehow one is quicker than the other, but what's the reason for it? So I started really reading the rule book. And if someone of you have seen the FIA rule book, this is a lot of pages. So I took all these books, we went to holiday and I went through these books. My wife did not really like that because I was reading all the time. And this is where I started really learning and understanding structure of motorsport, what is a race and how this stuff works. And then I was just curious. I was asking my colleagues all the time, how does this work? How does this work? A little bit the downside was I was already responsible for the strategy. So I had to learn at the same time as developing a strategy out of it. And but it was good times, exciting times. And honestly, sometimes if you do not understand everything in depth, it's also easier to make a decision or to give a direction, because you also do not know everything what could go wrong. So, and I was never shy of taking decisions and making proposals. So I just went in the board and said, this is my idea, this is what we should do. And then Mr. Wiedeking said, yeah, it's nice, go out, this is way too expensive, it does not work, I don't trust you, you have to organize, you have to bring your costs down, and so on. And then I just went to the board 10 times, and it took me 18 months to finally convince the board, now we return to racing on a different level.
Wow, 18 months. It's almost as long as it took for us to finally do this event.
It was 18
today.
months ago you asked me for the first day,
Yes.
for the first meeting, yes, right.
Well, the years you spent in motorsport laid the foundation for what later became one of your most prominent projects. The Porsche 918 Spyder was, by any measure, a moonshot. There were times during the project when people within the company genuinely did not believe the car would ever reach production, let alone market entry. When you're pursuing something that others believe to be impossible, how do you keep yourself and your team not just motivated, but truly committed to the cause, especially when the doubts may be coming from people whose opinions hold real weight?
It's exactly like you described it. Maybe it was even more the case that everyone but me did not believe in the project, in the company, and we managed it to get the core team, that was 200 people that were really working night and day on the project. They believed in it. And yes, we had to manage a lot of obstacles, setbacks, problems, timing, suppliers, all the things that can go wrong. And but it's always you look for your milestones and you look for your overachieving target, and that kept me motivated, because we started early to communicate with customers, and they have been waiting for this car. And if you have the feeling we have customers outside, they are waiting that we deliver, that was really big motivation for it. And you feel the responsibility for it. And that always kept me running. And for sure you have skeptics from the outside, but it's easier to look from the outside in a project, oh, I have seen this, this is not running, this is not working. But as an insider, you have the complete picture. And then you can judge, and you have to make the decisions. Will it work or not? Can we make it? Where do we have to adjust? Where's an extra effort necessary? And that motivated me. I never questioned it. And I think as a leader, it's also important. For sure, you have to listen to your team. But if you have the feeling you can really make it without being unrealistic, and this is where it gets tricky. Sometimes leaders are over enthusiastic on what they can achieve. I will not mention HS2 again, but maybe. Versus it's a realistic target and it can be done. And this you have to find. But if you're convinced you can do it, and maybe it needs an extra effort, And maybe it's not enough to work 8 hours in 5 days a week. It's more appropriate to work 6 days a week or 7 days a week for 12 hours, and you can achieve it, then you have to go for it. I think this is what we did. We delivered it finally, highly motivated team, and then it worked. And for sure, you can imagine, I can tell you stories now for the rest of the evening, but it keep yourself motivated and believe in it, and share the passion, but also be honest to your team. If you see, oh, I'm not sure if it will work, share it. Don't hide it, because people will see it.
Then several years later, after the diesel crisis hit in 2018, you found yourself becoming responsible for two of Porsche's most iconic cars, the 911 and the 718. What did it feel like being entrusted with something that carried so much heritage and expectation? And did it change how you viewed your role in any way?
Honestly, after the 918 project, I thought, no, well, now I managed this, everything else will be easy. And I remember back to the 918 project, when we had conversation with journalists, one journalist asked me and said, well, what is your reference project before you started the 918? What was your whole vehicle project or complete project you managed? I said, oh, I never did a complete project. And I said, that's interesting. Porsche is putting on their most prestigious project a beginner. That's an interesting approach, but okay. And maybe the same on 911. For sure, I lived with the 911 for many, many years and had an impact in these projects, also via motorsport many, many times. So I was racing it and knew a lot about the car. Honestly, if you have such a responsibility, and maybe it's the same today, you don't go in the office in the morning and say, oh God, now I'm responsible for the 911. What will I do today? You get used to it. It's your day job. It's the same like running a company. You don't ask yourself every day, oh, what's my responsibility today? What will go wrong? What will work? What do we have to do? Sometimes you just make the decisions that have to be done, bring in creativity, motivate people, manage your stuff, take care on people, customer, and product. Know your product. I would underline this 10 times. Know your product. And then you can do it.
You know, when you think about it, you've really lived through multiple technological revolutions during your time at Porsche, from combustion to hybrid, analog to digital. And each of these transitions forced a reevaluation of where the brand stood. Which technological era would you say challenged your thinking the most back then, and why?
I think, honestly, the introduction of the hybrid technology, also a little bit for sure related to the 918 Spider program, but was also part of the core team that made the first Panamera plug-in hybrid. Interestingly, the technology we still use, or we use to a high degree within Bentley, and this was 2008, a couple of years ago. But hybrid is the most complex drivetrain, because you have an electric drivetrain and the combustion engine and the gearbox, and you have to blend it over everything. And in the beginning we thought you cannot blend this all. This will never work, but it worked. I think that was, from a complexity perspective, now drivetrain-wise, very, very interesting times. And it was where it went very obvious that you need software to control a car, because without software you had no chance to make it happen. And the electric car, honestly, is easier, because you have only the electric drivetrain. So you cut out 50% of the complexity, no emissions, no fuel handling, everything. This is, if I say easy, kind of easy. It has also its complexity, but it's less complex than a hybrid. But what now comes is more the software-defined vehicle that kicks in. And this is not only technology, this time it's also process. So it's not only software, it's really technology. And technology means you also need the right process to do it. It's not just the product that is in the car finally. You need the process to do it, execute it properly, and to benefit from it.
Now, having navigated all of that and completed all the 911, 718, 918 projects, you were actually considering retiring.
Yeah, honestly, I said in this position I could retire one day. I did not want to retire immediately. So.
Yeah. Well, what happened? What was it about Bentley specifically that convinced you there was still an exciting chapter ahead?
Well, honestly, from time to time you reflect where you are, what is your options in your life, in your professional career, what could happen. And as I said, and as you said, I said, well, in this position I could retire. My professional life was really, really good. I've seen many, many projects. I connected to a lot of people, interesting people, great projects, great brand. That's good. But this kind of being relentless was obviously also inside myself. And so I looked around and said, what else could it be? And if I'm very honest, I could never have imagined to go away from Porsche, because it was my life. I was known there and everything was established, respected, was good. But then the offer came and I said, well, maybe it's worth to think about that. And honestly, I made a very quick decision. If I'm very honest, within hours. After I made the decision, I told my wife. Maybe I should have done it the other way around, but because it really attracted me. Because then you start reflecting and say, okay, in this role, what's the responsibility, where we are, what can we develop? And that looked very attractive, because it's still, and this is something I really loved all the time when in part of my professional career is working with smaller teams. Motorsport was smaller, 918 was a smaller team. I really loved this. And Bentley looked, from that perspective, very attractive. Smaller team, only 4,000 people, but for a car manufacturer, it's relatively small. Direct link to people, to our employees, to the engineers, to manufacturing, to the shop floor. That looked very attractive. It was on the high-end side in the market, something I always did, race cars. Also, if you sell a race car, it's €1 million. You connect with different kind of customers on a very personal level. And this looked all attractive for me. And it was managing this transition to the electric car. But I also had the feeling, the speed that and the original plan of Bentley, how to make this transformation, I said, I was not convinced that this could be maybe a little bit too quick. Because the original plan, also we can talk about that, was to be fully electric in 2030. But I was convinced and said, this is too quick. And again, about new technology is very often about timing. Getting the things right it's not only the technology and the product you offer. Very, very often it's the timing. And there's been many, many examples of people being too early or too late. But honestly, in too late, you have a better chance to catch up. Too early is really dangerous, because the majority of being too early did not survive. Okay, that was the starting point. That's interesting. And then, it comes, we have to move to England. Okay, let's go. Where exactly is Crewe? I've never been there. Where's Cheshire? Okay, made it. Put my stuff. 3 months later, I started. That's just very simple. And sometimes people are asking, okay, how is it when you are appointed and everything? You get a text message on a Sunday afternoon. That's how it works.
Yeah, I have to be honest, before this event, I also had to look up where Crewe was, because I didn't know beyond Bentley. Where is Crewe? What is in Crewe? Yeah. But as you said, nowadays, beyond the day-to-day operations within a company, a modern automotive company has to also manage design, engineering, software, sustainability. There's a lot more you probably know better than me. But in that sense, complexity is never just in one department. It's everywhere. In your opinion, what kind of organizational culture is needed to operate effectively in this kind of environment?
Well, organizational structure is always a task for a company, how to manage complexity. And as you said, it's many, many topics. And as I said, the car is 140 years old. So it's a very, very established technology in every detail. It's not a beginner's technology. From body in white, just to paint the car, what sounds simple, but if you go in depth, how to paint the car, it's saying this because we are opening or just ramping up a new paint shop. If you go in the details, what is all considered, what level of expertise you need to build a car is, and to build a car is one thing, but to run the car business, including after sales, customer relation, brand management, retail, after sales, everything. And we see some of the newcomers, yes, they're good in building a car, but this is only part of the story. It gets interesting when after 3 years your leasing cars are coming back, where to sell them, how to maintain them, how does your retail network look like, and so on and so on. So I strongly believe, because I've not seen anything working better so far, it's still time to learn, but you need responsible people for your product. Full product focus. We call it a product line. We have one responsible manager per car line. So one is responsible for the Continental, one for the Bentayga, and one for our upcoming new Bentley that will be revealed in September. And these people are have dedicated responsibility from cradle to grave, from a financial perspective, technical perspective, manufacturing, procurement, marketing, communication, and so on. And they love their product. They are behind it. They know the details. And then you bring all the expertise in, for sure. For sure, they're managing it. The experts are sitting then in the function. This kind of matrix is complex. It needs a lot of communication, and you have also some conflicts in that the expert sees it different than the project manager. But this, I always say, this is a very fruitful conflict that is put in, because it brings up things and different opinions are discussed, but they also decided. And from my perspective, still the most effective way in managing complex products. We are not talking easy things. Again, I repeat to say the car is the most complex consumer product in the world. It's more complex than a plane, because in a plane you have people on the ground that look for the operations. You have air traffic control. You have only trained personnel in the cockpit. In a car, the majority has a driving license somehow. Yeah, but okay, a driving license, you get it after either paying some money or being trained in 10 hours. And then you can drive. And then you're eligible to take out a 1,000 horsepower car on a free motorway in Germany. Have fun after 10 hours of training. Would you sit in an Airbus after 10 hours of training? I'm not sure. It's more safe than the car, maybe.
Well, when you think about that specifically within the context of Bentley, you're not just leading a complex company, you're also stewarding a brand with a very particular identity, history, and place in the industry. Bentley combines British craftsmanship, high-performance engineering, and luxury positioning in a way that few brands do. How would you define Bentley's unique role in the industry today? And perhaps how would that compare to that definition that you had in your head before joining the company?
I think, and I brought some of the examples, and you already described a lot exactly where is Bentley sitting. But it's, and this is important, we are moving the company to a next chapter. Introducing an electric car is not just offering a new product. It comes also with a different perception of the brand. And when I started, we had to find out, because the management team, we had some people joining the board newly. We could see the brand perception is maybe not there where it should be when we are coming with a new product. Because the intention for sure is to grow. It's not just to replacing or to selling a different car to the same customers. It's about selling a new car to different customers, new customers, growing the brand. And in all honesty, also getting a little bit younger especially in the UK, Bentley is not considered as being the vibrant brand for young people. Yes, it comes with price, but there's people that could spend it, but they don't do it. It looks completely different in different areas of the world. US, China is way younger, China is way more female. But in the core, it's not perceived as that. So we started, and you have seen some of the outcome, to work on the brand image of Bentley. And I think this is offering a new product. Yes, we know what to do. Designing a product, we know what to do. The engineering, everything, manufacturing, well known in the Volkswagen Group. It takes place many, many times a year. Volkswagen Group produces 9 million cars. So there's a lot of knowledge. But how do you transform a brand? And very, very important, not losing your existing customers. Grow from the core. Don't tell your customers, oh, we consider you are too old. This is not the message. This is not the message. I'm totally happy with our customers where we are today. But it's about brand perception. The target is that the grandkids maybe say, the coolest car in the family stays in the garage of our grandfather. This is the target. Building up fans and connecting with relevant people. And then you can grow it up. And then we find different customers. And I would say today, this is our biggest task we have. Offering cars, running the business, after sales, all known. Transforming the brand, that's a big task.
This question of identity is particularly interesting when you think about where Bentley sits within the broader Volkswagen Group, which you've mentioned. In practice, how do you balance benefiting from the structure, systems, and resources but that belonging to a group brings, while preserving the identity of Bentley and ensuring it never begins to feel like a mere derivative of a larger system?
I think this is, if you're talking on big tasks, this is the second big one. But there's more knowledge about. It's how to make a car by cleverly using parts, systems, technology, but also part of the administration of a bigger group in the background. And Bentley, I would say, has developed over the last 28 years under the stewardship of Volkswagen. Very, very good knowledge in making a Bentley by cleverly using drivetrains, systems that are not really tangible for the customer. Electronic architecture, this is maybe the most obvious one. Without showing that we are taking part of the technology from other parts in the group. Everything that identifies a Bentley is Bentley unique. Everything you see, feel and touch is Bentley. And today's world, as an insight, is software defines a lot on how a car behaves. I could take the same platform, the same hardware, different software setting, different calibration. You can make one car you love, and you can make out of the identical hardware, you can make a car you hate, you will not like. It's not about hardware and where does it come from. It's all about the intelligence we put today in software and calibration, in how the car feels. And honestly, we discuss in our development drives and with engineering and design way more often on how to bring in the attributes to the Bentley behavior, that you sit in the car, you take off, and after 100 meters you say, this is a Bentley. I'm pretty convinced that the car we will present in a couple of weeks exactly fulfills this. You look at it, you sit in, you feel, you touch, you drive, and you say, very unique, this is a Bentley. That's our job.
Well, we're very excited to see it.
Yeah, me too. I'm very excited to get the first responses on it, because you can imagine it. Well, I oversee now 2 years, but for sure the project work is 4 years. And you finally show it to the public and to journalists and to customers, and then you get the feedback if your investment was right.
This is particularly relevant when the very question of what a luxury car represents today is being challenged. Today, customers are increasingly viewing cars not just as vehicles, but as experiences and even extensions of personal identity. To what extent does this influence the way luxury cars are conceived? Does it require a fundamentally different design philosophy or simply a refinement of an existing one?
Well, in the Bentley case, I would say Bentley is the perfect example for exactly this understanding of what is a luxury product. Because as you said, and I constantly repeat to say, luxury is not defined by the spec sheet. And we see some competitors, specifically coming from China, long spec lists, cheap prices, and saying we have a luxury car. Number one, it's not defined by the spec sheet. Because if it would be defined by the spec sheet by buying a luxury car, you could not sell a single handbag from Louis Vuitton. Why? Because spec sheet wise does not fulfill, it does not make anything better than your free cotton bag you get when shopping. You can carry more, you cannot wash it. There must be something more, and this is all about the brand, and as you said, the extension of your personality. You want to show something. And in the Bentley case, I think that works pretty well, and it's very important that as a luxury brand, you stay to your roots, to your heritage. You don't have to reinvent yourself, but you have to develop it, especially in the car segment. You cannot stand and just do framed cars forever. You have to develop them. You have to offer new technology, but you have to stand to the real values of your brand, how you use it, how you use your materials, your leather, your wood, and so on. And again, this is also an important balance to keep that, to advance on the technical side, but not to forget your history. I would, in defining a luxury brand, making a hard cut and saying, now I'm electric, everything is different, I wouldn't do that. We will see in the market what works.
Well, I want to go back to the idea of self-expression a little bit. The idea of self-expression is central to the Bentley Milliner, which we saw briefly on the screen earlier. But the best personalization is not arbitrary. It reveals something about the owner while still remaining coherent with the brand. When does a bespoke customization elevate a Bentley, and when can it begin to undermine the design discipline of the brand?
In Mulliner, we normally only reject what's technically or from a homologation perspective not possible or feasible. This we don't do. Everything else is custom, and this is maybe about the story. Bentley is all about the customers. And there's a lot of discussion in the automotive industry, and even some of my CEO colleagues get upset if they see a car that is painted in pink. Me not. We are proud on this, and if this is the wish of the customer, who are we that we say, no, we don't paint your car in this color, as long as it's technically feasible? We are not. If someone wants to match the pink interior with a yellow interior, well, maybe from a residual value perspective, not the best choice, but that's honestly not really, we are here to fulfill customer wishes. If it's feasible, we will do it.
This brings us to one of the most interesting tensions within Bentley. Bentley has to satisfy two different relationships with the car: the owner who wants to drive and the owner who wants to be driven. Not many brands have to reconcile these two differences at such a high level simultaneously. How difficult is it to create and position a brand that needs to feel authentic from both seats? And are there times when serving one purpose well comes at the expense of the other?
I think what's important in this is, from a brand perspective, as I already described, Bentley can do it with a high credibility. If it comes to the product, it must be clear what's the purpose of the product. A Continental, the driver's car. A Flying Spur, way more And I have to be honest, the majority of the owners is driving the car themselves. But this is a car that has also the purpose to be driven, to represent something, and you have to focus on this main purpose. Now, technically, again, and from a product perspective, if the car is a very good driver's car, it's normally also very good to be chauffeured, because then the driving comfort is good, the steering is precise, your chauffeur don't have to correct when going in a corner. The car is predictable, the brakes are predictable, no one is over-braking or overshooting in braking and all these things that have an impact on the comfort. A very good driver's car is normally a very good car where you can be chauffeured in. You feel relaxed, it's not too shaky, and if it's not too shaky, it's also good for a driver. So this is technically easy. It's more important on the product to be clear what's the car made for.
Now, focusing a little bit more on the customers, Bentley's customers are remarkably diverse. The average age of a customer in the UK is 72, and in China, it's 35. This is not simply a difference of demographics, but rather a difference of aspiration and relationship with the brand. What is the common thread that connects Bentley buyers across these generations and geographies?
It's a lot about brand perception and quality, especially in China. Our reputation is extremely high. And talking also to the younger customers, they say, well, I learned that from my parents. This is the car to buy. This is the quality. This is the style. This is the paintwork. This is the leather. This is the craftsmanship. That's my car. And it's a lot about brand reputation. I would say this is the red thread or the golden thread. That we find everywhere. At the end of the day, if you ask and discuss with customers, yes, they talk performance and self-driving and everything, but normally they are amazed by the quality of the car. Execution in the detail.
Well, actually, on my way in earlier, I saw a Continental right outside the club, and I definitely saw the details. Well, having established where Bentley stands today, let's now turn to the future. Bentley has extended its design language and brand presence far beyond the automobile to Bentley homes, Bentley residences in Miami, the Bentley Record Room in Manchester, and the partnership with Macallan, for example. These are bold moves into entirely different categories, so I thought it would be worth getting your thoughts on diversification. How do you determine whether a new venture deepens the meaning of Bentley or risks diluting it? And are there any categories Bentley has not yet entered into that you believe it could one day explore?
I think a lot started. There's always collaborations also with automotive brands, especially in the luxury segment, with other brands outside the core business. I think the branded residences is a very good opportunity to really uplift Bentley as being recognized as a luxury brand. And as we are so strong in our interior and the design of our interiors and the materials, it fits very, very nicely in everything what is home, Bentley home residences. So if there's a need for an apartment in Miami, just give me your business card, we still can offer you something. But for sure, it's also from a model, it's a franchise model. And we have in-depth discussion in the board if something new shows up. Because you always ask yourself, does it fit to the brand? But sometimes the excitement comes if you have an offer on the table where you say, are you sure? Because then you create excitement where people start reflecting. You have things that fit perfectly together, Bentley home, the offer of furniture. Everyone can make immediately a relation. But sometimes you offer collaborations, like we announced nearly a year ago, a collaboration with a coffee chain, with Joey and the Juice. And people said, what are you doing there? And then going behind it. And all of a sudden we talk to different people. And this is about, again, managing the brand, changing the brand reputation to connect with people in other areas. On your question, what is the areas that we are explore? This is definitely fashion, and two perspectives of fashion. Some more short-term, one-off corporations where it could be a little bit give more freedom on who you work with, and then on the long-term orientation, what could be a high-end fashion brand that fits to Bentley. And interestingly, when we started to move the brand and to have new collaborations and new brand ambassadors and connecting with people we did not connect with in the past, you have agencies, and there's marketing agencies, and you offer sometimes, we are open for collaboration. We did not really get response. Meanwhile, we are called from agencies, from luxury brands that say, oh, there's something moving in Bentley. This looks exciting. They're changing their perception. That could fit to us. And that is an early indication of that we're really turning things around. So stay tuned. We have a very long list of very exciting collaborations for the future.
We'll keep watching, yes, for sure. Perhaps the most anticipated development within Bentley is what you said earlier, electrification. You've been very clear that Bentley's electrification strategy will be driven by genuine market demand rather than ideological commitment. And at present, your Beyond 100 Plus plan includes both battery electric vehicles and plug-in hybrids between now and 2035, with the first fully electric vehicle due to arrive in market next year after being introduced this year. How do you, or rather, what safeguards are in place to ensure that the introduction of these hybrid and electric variants do not negatively affect the residual value and perceived rarity associated with Bentley?
I would be in a very good position if we could safeguard it. As I said, the transition to the electric car is one of the most demanding operations in the automotive industry. And we have seen just all announcements of last year with the write-offs. This was more than 50 billion of the automotive industry just in Ford, Volkswagen, Stellantis together, where we already had to correct the big strategy. So it's not really safeguarded. We have to concentrate on product, brand perception. Not try to repeat, and we have to make the offer to the demand and not the other way around. This will not work in any market. But we have also boundary conditions, emission regulations, fleet regulations, CO2 payments, and so on. This is what we have to fight for, and it needs the open discussion with the governments and in this world, what is the right approach? And again, all about timing. We are talking about the most complex, but also the most expensive consumer good that is normally in a private household, the second biggest spending after housing. And now not only talking, it's not the case in Bentley, for Bentley customers, but more talking in general automotive. So for us, it's very important to keep everything about the DNA of a Bentley, not dependent on what is the drivetrain technology. I would say it worked pretty well for the plug-in hybrid introduction on the Continental and the Flying Spur. Cars are very well received. The transition from a W12 to a V8 hybrid worked really, really good. But what we also see is the transition from a V8 driver to a V8 hybrid. It's a little bit more a challenge. So it's not the top end, it's more the low end. So also there and Supersports gave us a very clear indication that an ICE-only variant should also be considered in the future. This is part of our strategy to balance these drivetrains. ICE-only, very dedicated, small numbers, but there's still demand. Hybrids will be the majority, and the battery electric vehicle we ramp up according to the demand. Is it safeguarded? No. It's part of the venture, part of the risk of being in the automotive industry, making the right decisions, timing-wise, product-wise, content-wise. There is no safeguarding. I would love to have it, but if we are honest, it's not there.
In addition to electrification, another one of the most transformative technologies on the horizon is autonomy. The prospect of fully autonomous driving is an interesting one for Bentley because, as we discussed earlier, the chauffeur experience is central to what Bentley offers for some customers. Does autonomous capability offer an opportunity to deepen this proposition? And if so, how does that change the way you think about the relationship between the driver and the car, interior design even, and ultimately the purpose of a Bentley?
I would split autonomy in two areas. One is everything up to level 3, or level 2++ or level 3 to the SAE standards, means you always have a driver in the car. And small differences between level 2 and level 3, but you need a driver. And then everything level 4, level 5 without a driver. There, level 4 and level 5, I would say, if you don't need a driver anymore, then it gets really dangerous for a brand like Bentley, because you are totally replaceable. You're talking people mover. I would never step in this business, leave that to taxis and others. Everything level 2, level 3 is just convenience for the driver. This is something we have to offer. The good thing is, again, we have access to group technology. We can offer this technology. It's available. We can put it in the cars. And I'm sure there's always situations, we all know that, where it's just nice if the car makes the job. Because you are in traffic jam in London. This is not, when we are talking drivers' cars, we have different ideas on where you drive the car. Not in daily traffic, maybe in London or elsewhere in the world. There it's convenience. Yes, we have to offer it. In China, some of our customers say, do I look like I cannot afford a chauffeur? This is not the problem. Different areas in the world have different value propositions on availability also of drivers. So they say, I trust my chauffeur. I don't need this technical stuff. I want a real human, and I want to be driven by someone, not just by technology. And again, this is the big difference of tech player versus luxury product. Different approach, and you want to express something. Level 4 and level 5 completely different. Then we are talking people moving. Then the brand is not relevant anymore. Very dangerous for a brand like Bentley.
Beyond technology, there is also the question of where the next generation of customers will come from and which markets will matter the most. How do you think about the risk of overdependence on any single market? And how are you structuring Bentley's global presence to be more resilient to these disruptions caused by new tariffs, stricter regulations, and fuel economy standards?
At the moment, Bentley has a very balanced offer over the world. So we have no market with more than 30%. What is really good and is helpful. It's not good if all markets are down. It also does not protect you. What's the case at the moment? But we are not only dependent on China or not only dependent on the US or Europe. So this is pretty well balanced. Part of the strategy is always to look where's new opportunities in the world. One is explicitly is India. We expect growth in India, and again, Bentley brand reputation and in general British products in India have a very, very good reputation. So that's good. I've seen the sales numbers this morning. It also looks promising start, but it's good. It's developing. We are opening new retailers in India, so there's a good chance. But there's more niche markets, and it's always moving. And as long as the total markets in the world are growing, luxury products will be asked for. Markets are in different stages. Early stage. China is a master example on how to get the car in the market. If you go back 40 years, it looked a little bit different, but in only 40 years it changed completely. And it starts from fulfilling the need of mobility to the diversification we see today, luxury products, regular products, different types, different demands in the markets. But a very important task is always look in new market opportunities. There's always something going on in the world. Things are shifting. New markets are coming up.
Switching gears a little bit, the automotive industry tends to speak as if people are always asking for more. More technology, more performance, more sustainability. But desire is not always the same as demand, and what people say they want and what they actually value are not always the same thing. What assumptions do you think the industry is getting right, and which are they getting most profoundly wrong?
A very good question. It comes back again to, we are talking customer needs. So if you look in the news, we see about electric cars. A lot of companies are coming with 4-digit numbers in horsepower. Say this is what you need. But I agree with you, is this really what the customer needs? So we have, despite sometimes the technical possibilities, to be very thoughtful on what we really offer. Don't expect an electric Bentley to have a 4-digit horsepower number, because we strongly believe it does not make the car better. Don't offer everything what is technically possible. There's a lot of ideas on what you can do, or what your assists and how big your infotainment is, what is really used, what do you really need. This is a constant debate also inside the company, making technical decisions. And if I look in an interior today, you sometimes have the impression the only need for a customer is to have more screens, because we are not looking enough on screens in our life, or should the car maybe not be the place where it's not looking on screens all the time. Not offering more screens, maybe only the necessary amount, and not just more is better. So I fully agree. But to find this point, that's an ongoing debate between markets, customer feedback, our own interpretation, and sometimes it's not just following trends. Bentley is not a brand that just follows trends. If we do something, we try to set also a trend, what is in our space not so easy, but be thoughtful about technically possible and makes sense and really benefits the customer. And even me saying that, having developed some of the quickest car on earth, acceleration of a family SUV with 2.5 seconds from 0 to 60, really? You need that? I'm not sure. And I've seen studies on how often do customers use it. They use it the first 10 days. Then all family members, neighbors and friends have seen it. You tick the box and then you never use it. But your car is designed to make 0 to 60 in 2.5 or 2.8 or whatever is the right number. That's the design. Tires, brakes, motors, cooling, everything is designed to that for something you do not need. I'm not sure where I would invest as a company also my money, what is really important. And everyone who has experienced an acceleration from 0 to 60 in less than 2 seconds knows maybe what I'm talking about. We are beyond fun.
Now, if we fast forward or accelerate to 50 years later, some brands will be remembered for simply following trends and adapting to change, whereas others will be remembered for having set the standards and defined what the next era will look like. When you reflect back on this period of technological transformation, shifting luxury values, and global realignment, what do you hope people will say Bentley understood earlier and more clearly compared to the rest of the industry?
I hope it's about not following trend, really staying to the brand values, having a more long-term orientation, and really keep the brand standards and the brand values high. And It worked for more than 107 years, so it's not a given that it will work forever. So it's being relentlessly extraordinary, hard working on that to keep it. It's not a given. And heritage is also not a strategy. You cannot lean back on you have to develop. And I was saying, maybe Angus remembers, in the brand book, if every year of your brand reflects the history, we have the responsibility to write in every year a story. If in 50 years someone flips back the book and looks what happens there, they say, oh, they've been creative, they created stories, they have been brave, they made a super sports, they drifted through the factory, something happened. It would be really a pity, and if I'm very honest, if I go through the history book of Bentley, there are empty pages. People had no idea. Our obligation is write stories, do things people will remember in 50 years. And this is what we have to do today.
Well, it is Voiceroom tradition to close our interview segment with a few questions in line with our mission statement, today for tomorrow. We often say that the future belongs to those who prepare for it. So what are you doing today that you believe will have the greatest impact on your personal vision for tomorrow?
Considering Bentley, I would really say it's a brand transformation. We're working not only on the product, but also on the brand.
And final question, what is the single biggest opportunity that business leaders must seize today, or the biggest change they must make in order to create a better tomorrow?
I would say business leaders, and forgive me saying in the Western world, and specifically in Europe, being aware of the competition and being aware of how advanced other countries and other nations, and I really name China for that, how advanced it is and how quick it's moving. It's very, very impressive. And if we continue to be slow, over-regulated, fearing everything, every technical change, we will not survive.
And on that note, thank you so much. This has been a very insightful discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, Frank. Good to meet you. My name is Ian. So I come from the natural resources sector, specifically mining. So we are an investor. We deploy capital into the critical metals sphere. I guess my question is, without giving us your recipe for the battery technologies, what do you see as the main core metals or critical metals that you're working on for your battery technologies? Because obviously they're changing as you're going on, right? So you've got the nickel, you've got the manganese now, moving away slowly from cobalt.
I would, first of all, I would assume luxury cars, high performance would stay with NMC chemistry. So cobalt and nickel, or maybe more cobalt, will be the topic. Why I'm not overly concerned, I have the Volkswagen Group in my back. If they can source the batteries for Volkswagen, I will always get my cells, because I know where I'm in value contribution per car. Because selling a battery in a Bentley or selling a battery in a Polo, the contribution in the Bentley is a little bit better. So this is the Bentley perspective. Global automotive perspective, I would say, yeah, it's cobalt, it's lithium. But we also have to say, we are also running out of oils since 70 years. In the 70s, we found out it will not be enough. Since that time, we found more oil than ever. Did we really explore the complete world for lithium? I doubt that. So we will find more lithium, we will find the recycling and so on. This will be solved. Question is more on the cost.
Hi, my name is Dipesh and I'm from technology sector. So one of the themes in technology sector is we are continuously preparing for the future. We are grappling through the change and then we are already predicting the change. If I compare that with the today's discussion, from Bentley's perspective, coming towards the electric car was itself a big transformation. And we are already talking about autonomous vehicles as well, which is, and you quite rightly spoke about level 3, level 4, and then maybe level 5, where it is driverless. How do you at Bentley already start to balance in getting the most out of your factories in terms of being efficient at electric car and winning that particular competition in the niche market of luxury cars, which we spoke about, and already preparing for the future, which will be another wave of transformation already? How do you balance between both?
I think how the factory is set up is on maximum flexibility. So you will not, we build a complete new assembly line, and the chance of making a new car was also taken to introduce a new production system. Means we have no conveyor belt anymore, total flexibility in manufacturing. And the plan is to produce on the same line in the same assembly ICE cars, plug-in hybrids and battery cars. Very unique in the world. And this is exactly where we can balance and also get the efficiency, because we now can adapt really on market demands. If it's higher there, we can lift it up. We don't have to adapt all the time the factory. The factory gets in full flexibility. That comes with high investment. We invested 350 million euros on site in crew, just in a new factory. Huge investment, but that makes it future-proof. And things like self-driving technology is already built in. So we can prove all the sensors, everything on site. The car is, I would call it today, level 2++ ready. We will not immediately introduce it, but we are completely prepared for these next technology steps. We can handle batteries, we can recycle batteries, we can test, drive, release autonomous vehicles. So a lot of preparation work is done already.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Hallo und guten Abend. Vielen Dank für Ihren Vortrag. And my question is rather personal. When you were at Porsche, you knew that it felt right before the data confirmed it. Can this instinct actually survive when the engine is simply data and software? Thank you.
A car is a, as I said, a technically complex product, but it follows still the rules of physics. I still find out that sometimes engineers, they look in their data, but they do not understand the car. And you have some simple things that have to come together. Electric, plug-in hybrid, ICE, whatever. They're still valid. And again, know your product, know your physics behind it. And sometimes you really can judge it already by the figures you get will work or will not work. And how is the feeling about? For sure, then there's a lot of engineering and detailed work to make it happen. But you need this early judgment that a car can work in a layout if you understand the base physics of the car. So yes, this is a task for engineers, understand the complete product, not only your small topic. And I've seen many, many people struggling in that. I will not say I made it all the time right. It's the opposite. I also, for sure, struggled many times, but learn all about to understand the complete vehicle.
This is maybe more personal question, but still, I believe, appropriate. So, what is the most frequent, the loudest thought that you have to regularly switch off to do your job successfully?
Good question. Something to think about. When you develop a product over such a long time, a car takes 4 years. Depend always on how you count exactly, but let's assume 3-4 years. You make very early decisions, length, dimension, power, and everything. But for sure, then you go through the process, you develop it, you see the first prototypes, you see the pre-production cars and everything. But from time to time, you ask yourself, did we make the right decisions? And you have to switch that off sometimes. But only sometimes. Sometimes you have also to reflect, could we correct? Are we okay? Is our design going in the right directions? And for sure, you doubt yourself from time to time. And then you say, will it be good? What happens if we reveal it tomorrow and everyone says, couldn't you see that? We don't like it. Normally it does not happen. But between being bold and being realistic in this decision-making process, this is sometimes what drives you. But you have to make the decisions. And you have something you have to decide on and to say, okay, this will be the final release of the design. This is how the car will look like. And you go home and say, did we do the right thing? Is it the right thing? And this you have to take away from time to time. But it's a hard part of the job. And be confident enough to the people you're leading, but also be self-critical enough to yourself to ask the people on their opinion, to generate a speak-up culture where people, if they doubt, they also can say it. Say, do you really like it? And a lot is about taste. Technical solution is easier. We make spreadsheets and tables and physics and experience. But when it comes down to taste, it's more difficult. If it's the wrong color, it's easy. You can correct it. You paint something else. But if you're really in design, and just to give you a number, body in white, the panels and everything, the size of the car, this is roughly 100 million of tools you invest, and you should be right. Because once it's there, it's there. It will not go away for 10 years.